let's talk about what happens when two completely different worlds smash into each other. You've got the world of heavy industry, of immense physical power. And then you have the invisible world of code, of ones and zeros. This is the story of the moment that code learned how to break concrete and steel. Let's get into it. Okay, so look at this. On the left, you see the unbelievable physical scale of a nuclear enrichment plant. We're talking sprawling buildings, massive, complex infrastructure. And on the right, a tiny screen, the kind of digital interface that runs a system just like it, but this one's been compromised. A simple message: you have been hacked. This is really where our story kicks off, the exact moment a digital ghost figured out how to break a very, very real machine. To really wrap our heads around how this is even possible, we have to start with the physical stuff. We need to go inside those giant buildings and take a look at the incredibly precise, high-speed process that's really at the heart of the entire nuclear industry. Now, the tech is called a gas centrifuge, but don't let that fancy name fool you. The basic idea is actually surprisingly simple. I want you to picture a super hyper-advanced salad spinner, but instead of drawing lettuce, it's sorting individual atoms. You just spin a gas at unbelievable speeds, and that separates the heavy stuff from the light stuff. It's a surprisingly mechanical solution to a very atomic problem. So here's how it works. You take uranium hexafluoride and turn it into a gas. Then you pump that gas into a cylinder that's spinning, tens of thousands of times every single minute. And just like in that salad spinner, the heavier stuff, in this case the U-238 atom, gets flung to the outside wall. The lighter and much more valuable U-235 atom hangs out closer to the center. Then you just pipe out the two different streams and boom, you've separated them. Simple, right? Well, maybe not so simple. See, it gets a lot more complicated when you have to do this on an industrial scale. One single centrifuge just doesn't enrich the uranium enough, so you have to link them all together in a chain. The slightly enriched gas from the first one gets fed into the second one, and then the third, and so on and so on. These huge interconnected systems are called cascades. And this really puts the scale into perspective. A single commercial enrichment plant can have over 10,000 of these things, all spinning in perfect synchronized harmony. It's like a massive, incredibly sensitive mechanical ballet. And, with that many moving parts, it's also a massive potential point of failure. All right, let's switch gears. We're going to leave the physical world of spinning metal and dive headfirst into the digital realm. This is the world of elite cyber units, where the weapons aren't bullets but lines of code, and the soldiers are some of the most brilliant minds on the entire planet. And at the very heart of this world is a highly secretive organization, Israel's Unit 8200. This is the Israeli Defense Forces' top-tier signals intelligence and cyber warfare division. But what's so fascinating about them is this double life they lead. On one hand, they're a hugely powerful tool for national security, but on the other, they're basically the unofficial training ground for Israel's entire startup nation tech economy. And this unit didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Its roots go way back to the 1920s. It evolved from old-school radio interception to playing an absolutely decisive role in conflicts like the Six-Day War. Over decades, it slowly transformed itself into the global cyber powerhouse it is today. The secret to their success isn't just about the tech. It's about the culture. Inside Unit 8200, your rank often doesn't matter as much as your idea. They've built this environment where young recruits are actively encouraged to challenge their superiors, to think outside the box, and to take big risks. Honestly, it sounds less like a traditional military unit and a lot more like a high-stakes tech startup. So we've got this massive, delicate, vulnerable industrial machine on one side and this highly innovative, super secretive cyber unit on the other. And now we get to the part where these two worlds finally collide, and in the most dramatic way you can imagine. This collision marks a fundamental shift in what war even is. For centuries, warfare was physical. You could see the weapon, you could see the target. But with cyber sabotage, the weapon is just information. The target is an invisible network. But the damage can be just as real and just as physical as any bomb. Over the years, a whole bunch of incredibly sophisticated cyber spying tools like Dooku, Gauss, and Flame have been linked back to Unit 8200. These were mostly about stealing information. But then came something totally new, something designed not just to watch, but to destroy. Stuxnet. It was different. This was the weapon that finally, definitively, crossed the line from the digital world into the physical one. It secretly worked its way into the control systems of Iran's nuclear facility at Natanz. And once it was inside, it didn't just snoop around. It took control of those centrifuges. It would subtly speed them up, then slow them down, over and over, until they literally tore themselves apart, all while it was sending fake data back to the human operators, telling them everything was perfectly normal. Stuxnet changed absolutely everything. It was proof that a piece of code could be a weapon of actual physical destruction. But by opening that door, it also unleashed a whole new kind of chaos, a world of constant, simmering, low-level cyber conflict that's fought not just by nations, but by pretty much everyone. Now, what's really wild about this slide is just the sheer volume. This data is showing the number of claimed cyber attacks related to the Iran-Israel conflict over just a few weeks in June of 2025. You can see Israel is getting hammered with over 400 claims. This isn't one big surgical operation like Stuxnet. This is a constant, messy barrage. And take a look at who's launching these things. These aren't all state-sponsored military units anymore. We're talking about hacktivist groups, these non-state actors with names like Mysterious Team and Team Fearless. The battlefield has been completely democratized. Now basically anyone with a grudge and a keyboard can get in on the action. And they're not shy about their motivations either. Here on the left, you've got a Telegram post from a group called Chemis, and they're flat out saying they're attacking Jordan for intercepting Iranian missiles. And right next to it, their hit list, the Ministry of Finance, the Public Security Directorate, even cell phone companies. It's a clear political cause, followed by a direct cyber effect. But here's the problem. These attacks aren't just hitting government targets. This image of the hacked controller, that's from a municipal water authority in Pennsylvania. So we've gone from nuclear facilities all the way down to the system that controls your town's water pressure. The critical infrastructure that we all depend on every single day is now on the front lines. This new reality just raises all these profound, really difficult questions. I mean, when a keyboard can do the job of a missile, how do we even define what an act of war is? And in a battle that has no borders and invisible soldiers, what are the rules? Are there any rules at all? Well, the legal world is desperately trying to catch up. One of the key ideas they're wrestling with is something called lex specialis. It's Latin for special law. The basic idea is that a very specific law will always trump a more general one. So in a declared war, the laws of armed conflict apply. But what laws apply to a cyber attack that happens when nobody has actually declared war? And this is really the core dilemma. Do we treat a cyber attack like a crime under a law enforcement model, where the main goal is to protect life and using force is an absolute last resort? Or do we treat it under a hostilities model, where the goal is gaining a military advantage and attacking legitimate targets is actually permitted? Right now, nobody can really agree on the answer. And so that leaves us with the central, nagging question of this new era. When code is a weapon, when a teenager in their bedroom can attack a nation's power grid, and when the damage is very real but the attacker is a ghost, who exactly is a combatant? And what exactly is the battlefield?